Hello. It's been a while. I guess I should probably start introducing myself at the start of these readings, but my name is Vincent, and today's reading, or at least this reading, is for the sign of Aries. It might take me a little while, but I'm going to try my best to get through all 12 signs before the next moon, and we'll see what happens. I'm using a deck that I haven't used on this channel before that I've been really excited to use. I've had it for a few months now, and haven't had any readings put up with it just yet, but I am here changing that. It is the Tarot Yohualli Ehécatl by, I know him by his Instagram name, MiCorazonMexica. Phenomenal deck. It's beautiful. A lot of the imagery is kind of like indigenized versions of the traditional tarot, but with a lot of Mexica mythology kind of woven into the imagery and the concepts. And I think the execution it's so beautiful. And we'll see what comes through for you today, Aries. I don't want to linger too long. Right off the bat, and it's probably just because I'm using this deck for the first time on a public reading like this, I'm really connecting with the rabbit. And specifically, there's a concept in, I think, primarily what we call Aztec philosophy, theology, I don't even know the correct term to use in this case, where one becomes possessed by the spirits of 400 rabbits when they drink. And I don't want to necessarily get stuck on this concept specifically, but what I'm trying to convey, or what I'm connecting to and trying to articulate, is this energy of almost like wild abandon. Even in the West, I think there's a connection of rabbits with, I don't think recklessness is the right word, but sort of powerful sexual drive, powerful primal drive, which kind of overrides conventional logical thought. So maybe that's kind of something that Aries is navigating right now, is sort of a state of surrendering to the lower mind in a way. And I don't mean to say lower mind in a way that demeans the faculties therein, the bodily consciousness. There's just something about Aries really connecting with themselves physically right now. And maybe that has something to do with Saturn being in the sign, right there with Neptune. There's just something about Aries feeling very physical, very in their body. This can be kind of a restricting or limiting experience, but I think it can also be a very liberating experience if you sort of surrender into the process of learning how to navigate it. And right off the bat, we have the Nine of Staves, which I think is Nawi Topili in Nahuatl. But yeah, there's very much this sense of not necessarily feeling... Okay. So it's still connecting with the initial impression that I was getting with the rabbit and the connecting with the primal energy sort of thing, but it's almost like there's so much energy around you right now, so much drive and passion and even attraction. Not necessarily romance, I don't think that's the case. It's more that everything's feeling much more intense for you right now. And it doesn't have to be sexual, it doesn't have to be in that arena. But it almost seems like Aries is trying to center themselves within a firestorm of sorts. There are a lot of moving parts, a lot of people vying for the attention of Aries, people that want to feel your eyes on them for one reason or another. Maybe they need your help because you're the only person capable of doing something in like a workplace or something. But I think what it comes down to is that people sense your power, and they also sense your abandon. I think Aries has a natural gift of seeking to do the thing regardless of consequences or regardless of how it may be perceived or received by others. If something needs to be done and Aries has the wherewithal to get it done, Aries is going to do it. And everyone else is just going to have to deal with it, basically. And it's not necessarily something that I feel is done without consideration of other people. I think there's a tendency to kind of lump Aries into a selfish category or a inconsiderate, or as being inconsiderate. And I don't think that's accurate, at least not in this case. Because the energy I'm getting with this figure here is that he's in careful contemplation of every move. Like he's thinking about where he's going to be going next from here. Thinking about how best to utilize the energy that is being presented to him. And like I said, I'm still learning a lot of the mythology and the imagery that is inherent in this particular deck. So a lot of my interpretation of these cards is just going to be my impressions and my intuition kind of coming through, and whatever concepts I am already aware of coming through. But this is with the feathers and the bird helmet. I'm thinking about, I don't know a lot about this ceremony, and I don't remember which tribe it's associated with. I think it might be Navajo. It was something that I was kind of loosely aware of when I lived in the Southwest. It's kind of my home there. But the sun dance, the sun warrior. And like I said, I don't know a lot about this. It's like coming up from the recesses of my memory of a figure who's tied to a pole by way of hooks. I don't remember if it's like hooked into their chest or hooked into their back, but they're like kind of sort of suspended by this pole. And something about this image is just like the ropes that are suspending this figure, the whatever's connecting them to this central axis. It's like it's imparting energy. It's infusing. It's charging this person. And I don't know why it's connecting with this card here, and it's probably just the wings and stuff, because I think part of that ceremony is dressing up as an eagle or some sort of eagle imagery inherent in the ceremony. Like I said, I don't remember a whole lot about it, but I did pull another card. This is the 8 of Flint, which is like the 8 of Swords. Like Chikwei Tekpatl, I think. And I feel like there's a connection between these two cards because the imagery, it's not the same, but there's something similar to it. And I don't at all get the impression that this figure is trapped by her circumstances. I almost get the sense that she's in training. It's more warrior energy, like she's being placed into a specific situation in order to learn how to in the process of restricting her senses and her abilities to interact with the world, symbolically, like being tied up or whatnot, being very limited and restricted by their circumstances. It's almost like it's a process to turn the awareness within and to also tune the awareness into what's actually happening in the situation around, being very keenly aware of, I'm just like very focused on the sense of hearing and like literally perceiving the entire space around you with your eyes closed and your hands tied and being able to see with your ears. Like something about listening. I'm hearing like whittling out the gossipers. I don't know if that's going to be relevant for everyone, but there's something about really paying attention to what is being said by the people around you, and also even simple things like birds flying by and chirping and wind blowing and things occurring in the distance that wouldn't really be in your perception or your ready awareness if you weren't blindfolded, so to speak. It's like your hands are tied so that you can better assess your surroundings. To sum it up, I'm not really sure. Next card, Chique Chalchihuitl. This is the 8 of Jade, the 8 of Pentacles, 8 of Earth. These are just such beautiful cards. Let's take a moment. Like, wow. MiCorazonMexica. That's where you'll find these. He has an Etsy shop. Interesting. Okay. So this card is taking me back to the 8 of Flint, and what it's sort of conveying to me is that this person that's in training, suspending themselves, I almost feel like it's enforcing humility in order to learn from the situation in a different way. Going through a process of training or learning, something about that is being really kind of made relevant to this reading. But this 8 of Jade, it's almost like in being in this state, you come to new understanding of how to approach your craft. And I say craft because of this card. Like, this is the card of handcrafts, of handiwork, of imparting one's will into the physical world, whether that's through art, spreadsheets. I don't know why that came up. Something corporeal, tangible, physical that has real life effects and impacts. And that can be any number of things. It's a very broad statement. But something about having suspended yourself in time, of detaching yourself from interacting with your space and rather being in a state of receptivity to your space and listening and paying attention rather than just doing, which is very easy for Aries to do. Aries is the sign of action, the sign of doing, the sign of creating and being, and movement. And so it can be a little difficult sometimes for Aries to turn that around, and instead of externalizing themselves so freely, turning the flow back in on oneself and allowing the external world to enter and to pay attention to what that brings up. And it could be by that being in this process, perhaps you learn a new technique for something that you were already doing, you already knew how to do, but now you're approaching it from a different angle because there's some sort of new perspective that you've gained that allows you to do things more efficiently, more effectively, or with a unique spin Something that was otherwise very impersonal, you're making personal now. Our next card, we have the Two of Flint, which is like the Two of Swords. I feel like she wants to go right underneath the Eight of Flint. Oh, I just, these cards are so beautiful. This is very much being in a state of internalizing or externalizing, like that state of uncertainty, not necessarily uncertainty, acting maybe having come to a new understanding of how delicate the situation is, the situation around you. I feel like you're understanding the consequences of things. Like if you decide to go in this particular direction, this will be the likely outcome. And so you're considering not only that approach, but also a different approach that can take you in an even more different direction. And there's this theme of like trust, because I'm getting very fixated on the fact that they're both wearing blindfolds. They're trusting their own inner guidance, but I feel like more than that, especially with the moon in these cards, it's like trusting the natural unfolding of time to bring you to the right people at the right time in the right places, and learning how to trust fall in a way, trusting your ability to effectively respond to situations as they arise, to effectively take advantage of any opportunities that come to you by happenstance or in synchronous sort of scenarios that you're not really expecting. But something about what's being implied by these cards is to really drive the point home to Aries that you need to be prepared for something. You need to be prepared for something that's not necessarily in the natural rhythm of how you've been living your life. And in order to be ready and prepared for this, there is a state of inner suspension, of inner stillness and inner quiet that needs to be met. You can still be out in the world doing things, working at your job or creating the art that you're creating, whatever the case may be, but there's a layer of distinction, a layer of quiet that needs to come between you and the outer world so that you're more able to clearly assess the true unfolding of reality. Because if you don't have that quiet, that inner separation, that inner receptivity to what's happening out there, you might miss something. You might miss an important detail, or you might miss an important opportunity. Like everything's feeling very faded for Aries right now. And I mean, it makes sense. Neptune, Saturn, and Cancer, Mercury, they're all in this cardinal axis of Aries and Cancer. Like there's a lot of movement happening in the cardinal axis, and it's compelling movement, compelling, faded, big, major events that shift reality for you. And Aries is naturally the warrior. Aries is not in a battle with the material world, but its mission is in learning mastery over the material world, because it is such a pure expression of self, of the light of the soul coming out into the world, that if it burns too quickly and too brightly, it's going to burn out. There's a nuance that needs to be learned, and I feel like that's something that you can get from Virgo. A lot of the theme that's been going on in my own personal life has been paying attention to the antiskios, or the antitia, the sort of mirrored ecliptic as split between the solstice, the axis of the solstice between, the first point of Capricorn and the first point of Cancer, and how the zodiac mirrors on each side. So like 5 degrees of Aries would be 5 degrees of Virgo. That's kind of how it works. And then you have like 25 degrees of, I'm sorry, I said 5 degrees of Aries, that'd be like 25 degrees of Virgo, just the way that it mirrors. But something about the Virgo approach is kind of relevant here. And I don't know if that's just because I'm looking at the maiden type figures that are in these 2 cards here. These just feel very Virgo-ish to me. Even though, with the 2 of Swords, the 2 of Flint, you're looking at the first decan of Libra, and with the 8 of Flint, you're looking at the first decan of Gemini. So yeah, and then even just like the imagery of the 2 poles, the 2 polarities, like this is very much just like really connecting with that idea that something that Virgo is reflecting back to Aries, something about the details, something about the refinement, the craftiness, the careful channeling through appropriate materials, like something about wiring, like making sure that the wires are made of the right materials so that the energy that is transmitted through them doesn't suffer any loss along the way, that everything is retained and utilized with the utmost efficiency, the utmost purpose. Because I think right now it's going to be very easy for Aries to just kind of just flood the gates. And that's not the approach that's being asked of right now. And if anything, there's a damming up. And I don't think that's what this is in the background. It looks more like a temple complex, maybe. More like a pyramid with the temple on top. But in my mind, it's conveying this idea of a dam, especially with the sort of boggy, marshy looking ground that she's over right here. And then you have the moon, the glyph of the moon down here, implying sort of tidal relationship. So it's almost like at some point water will come and flood this space, maybe when the tides are high, and then it sort of recedes. But yeah, it's like reconnecting with the natural rhythm of time and of life, maybe paying attention to the lunar cycles and kind of trying to harness the energy that's available at specific times in the lunar month, so that you can effectively manage yourself and manage your approach to things, understanding that when the energy is increasing during the waxing half of the lunar phase, that you are building something up, that you are consolidating, that you are creating, that you are externalizing, and then as the cycle wanes and decreases in light, you are disseminating, you're giving away, you're releasing the products that you've created in the other half of the moon. However you find your own natural rhythm within that flux, I think will be something that's valuable to you. I'm going to pull one more card, and we're looking at the 2 of Cups. So this is the first decan, at the 2 of Hearts in this deck. This is the first decan of Cancer. That is that, most northerly point of the ecliptic, just after the northern solstice. And again, I put it at like the top of the cross. I have the cards arranged in the cross, and this is the top. And it's very much connecting back to that antiskios, that antitia relationship of the ecliptic, of situations will arise in your experience that reflect back where you are. So this could be another spin on the message that's coming through. If you restrict yourself, if you repress yourself, if you limit your words at the expense of your integrity, at the expense of your happiness and joy, the universe out there will continue to appear to be oppressing you, because it's just showing you what you're embodying within yourself. And I don't want to say that and then not, make the additional statement that I'm not saying that if you're in oppressive circumstances, like seriously oppressive circumstances, that it's just a reflection of you and it's your fault. Like, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. And I think that line of thinking, I think that comes along with a lot of the law of attraction folks. It's not true. It's not helpful. In fact, it's very destructive. It induces a lot of despair and hopelessness, because you feel like it's your fault that you're experiencing shitty circumstances. And while that can be the case, like, the consequences of your own choices, there are a lot of situations that come up in life that aren't your fault and are out of your control, and are sort of being imposed upon you by others or by natural forces. And there's no escaping that. It's just a fact of reality. But it's how you approach and respond to these situations that propels your life forward or takes it away. And I feel very much that Aries is in this process of learning how to master that, of learning to be a master of their response, as opposed to being lorded over by their reactions. And I think that's happening collectively, and that's a lot of the focus with a lot of my writing and even the art that I haven't really shared much with people, is this idea of personal responsibility and autonomy and discipline in order to more effectively create a reality that is conducive for the path one is on. A lot of words. I hope you understand what I'm trying to convey here. Maybe this next year with Jupiter in Cancer is going to be sort of introducing a lot of synchronicity into your life. And so I also feel like things are going to be moving very quickly. There's going to be a lot of activity, a lot of energy around you, kind of like how we started, that firestorm that's around you. And you can either stand there and feel helpless and feel like you don't know what to do. There's just so much going on, and you don't know where you stand amidst it all. You don't know which direction you're going to go in, and everything is just a little bit too crazy, and you want to crawl up into a little hole and close your eyes and pretend nothing exists anymore. You can do that if you want. Or I'm here, you can break out the surfboard and ride the wave. Like, you are capable of being a master of the situation you find yourself in. It's just a matter of you attuning to that aspect of yourself and giving it the time and the space that it needs to flourish. Trusting your inner power, trusting your inner abilities to balance in kind of rocky situation. Balancing on the tightrope is something else that I'm hearing. Like, you're capable of doing that. It might take a lot of training, but that's what's happening right now. Like, you're being prepared. You're being tested so that you can more effectively manage these real life situations and make something of it, produce something of it, support yourself as a result of it, independent of, I'm hearing independent of corporations. It might not be relevant for everyone, but I mean, kind of a implied concept with what I'm saying here. And it's not going to be easy. There's a lot of challenge inherent in this individuating process. in this self-mastery process, but it can also be fun. Like, yeah, circumstances can be crushing the crap out of you right now, but you can still dance. You can still sing. You can still have fun. You can still appreciate that the pressure is only making you more strong, more powerful, and stronger. That's the guaranteed result if you persist and persevere in the midst of this, is that you will be a stronger, more capable, more powerful version of yourself. And what Aries isn't seduced by that concept? Speaking as an Aries, we want to do and be better and be more powerful, be stronger, be more effective in our ability to sublimate circumstances which would otherwise leave us feeling powerless. We don't like that. We want to be the powerful. We want to be the one in charge. We want to be the one with our hands on the driving wheel. And we can do that. We can be that. It just takes some time to honor the silence, to listen and to pay attention and to allow yourself to learn from what's happening, as opposed to just doing things for the sake of doing things, because any moment without activity is boring or is a waste of time. Divorce yourself from that thinking, because it's just going to be an impediment in the long run. And maybe that's what's the message with this card here at the heart of the reading. Those limiting thoughts, those limiting beliefs, those limiting patterns, they can be cut away. Like the ropes. They can be cut away, they can be loosened, they can be shrugged off. And with that, I think that's your reading for now, Aries. I hope that it provided something helpful and useful to you, and that you understand that we only go up from here. You got this. We're in this together. You're not alone. Reach out to people for support if you need it. You don't have to be perfect immediately. That's kind of also the issue with Aries, is that we want to be amazing at everything that we start immediately, and we don't always have the patience to sit with the process of falling on our ass until we know how to stand up. But when we do, Aries is a force to be reckoned with. And you can be that. Keep it up.